We are learning surprising new details about the Trump administration's involvement in the alleged Ukrainian pressure campaign. Just hours after the Senate received the articles of impeachment yesterday, Lev Parnas went on an all-out media blitz. On air, the former Rudy Giuliani associate implicated several top Trump administration officials, including the president himself, in having knowledge about efforts to force Ukraine into investigating Joe Biden.
President Trump knew exactly what was going on. He was aware of all of my movements. I wouldn't do anything without the consent of Rudy Giuliani or the president.
CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge joins me now from our Washington bureau. Hi, Catherine. So Parnas has done a series of explosive interviews in the last 24 hours. Exactly how serious are his claims against the Trump administration regarding its dealings with Ukraine?
Well, Tanya, what's significant here is also the depth and breadth of the new records that have been released by these House committees. So we have voicemails, we have text messages, we also have handwritten notes, and Lev Parnas is saying this is all evidence that backs up my position that my work with Rudy Giuliani was about 2020. It was not about 2016. It was about finding derogatory information about former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden, and also communicating to the Ukrainian president that unless he announced an investigation into the Bidens, there was simply not going to be any military aid. And then also this new allegation that there was alleged tracking or surveillance of the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, and that's been significant because it's prompted the Democratic chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee to ask the State Department for documents and also get a brief from diplomatic security about what they know about the alleged surveillance.
Right. I mean, you would think that the State Department would want to respond specifically to that allegation, because that is certainly alarming. You know, in that clip we played earlier, Catherine, Lev Parnas says that everyone, including the president, lied about not knowing what was going on. So what has Rudy Giuliani said about Parnas's claims? After all, Parnas was working with Giuliani.
Well, Rudy Giuliani told CBS News that Parnas is a very unreliable witness in his terms, and that he was embellishing his role and embroidering the details of their relationship because he's under federal indictment. And Rudy also said that in his view, Parnas is someone who was trying to curry favor with the House committees because he's trying to stay out of jail. And Giuliani also told CBS News that whatever happens in the Senate, he fully anticipates that the House committees will continue their investigation, specifically targeting his activities in Ukraine.
So, Catherine, Parnas says it wasn't just the president, also the vice president and attorney general who had to be aware. Let's play a bite from what he said.
It was never about corruption. It was strictly about the Burisma, which included Hunter Biden and Joe Biden.
So Parnas goes on to claim that Pence went to Ukraine to push them to announce an investigation into the Bidens. He also said Attorney General Barr was in the loop. So, Catherine, earlier White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham had this to say about those allegations.
The president has said he did not know him. And I've got to say, you know, just to say Rudy told me these things doesn't mean that it has anything to do with the president. And it certainly doesn't mean that the president was directing him to do anything. You know, we stand by exactly what we've been saying. The president did nothing wrong. The phone calls, the transcripts say everything there is to it. This is a man who's under indictment and who's actually out on bail. This is a man who owns a company called Fraud, Inc.
So have we heard any other responses from the White House, and should we expect to see more of these attempts to discredit Parnas as a witness?
Well, the administration has been very consistent in describing Parnas as an unreliable witness and someone who is under federal indictment and really is looking for an off-ramp to avoid some kind of jail time. In addition, what we heard from the Attorney General's office is that they reiterated that they had no direction from the president on Ukraine. They were not aware of the phone call between the president and the Ukrainian President Zelensky until weeks after the fact. And they've also distanced themselves from Rudy Giuliani, saying that Attorney General Barr has not talked to Rudy Giuliani about these investigations nor coordinated with him in any way.
Now, Parnas handed over several documents which were made public by the House Intelligence Committee. Earlier, you referenced the breadth of those documents. Do you actually think that they will make a difference, though, in the impeachment trial?
Well, I think what matters here is threefold. Number one, it's the depth and the breadth of these records. Those who want to say that Parnas may have his credibility problems, but the records speak for themselves, can point to the documents and say, we really need to have witnesses in this Senate trial. And it may give more ammunition to those Republicans in the Senate who feel that there ought to be a fuller investigation than what has been presented by the House.
And Catherine, you also have news about the surveillance court involving restrictions on future investigations focusing on presidential campaigns. What more can you tell us about this?
Well, in early December, the Justice Department internal watchdog, Michael Horowitz, released his report into alleged surveillance abuse targeting the Trump campaign in 2016 and then a number of renewals in 2017. And Attorney General Bill Barr has said publicly now that in the future, if the FBI opens what's called a counterintelligence investigation, that's an investigation designed to gather information, not necessarily to pursue a criminal prosecution. It can only happen when a presidential campaign is involved if there is direct sign-off from the FBI director as well as the Attorney General, and that did not happen last time. And the other big development is that two House Republicans have written to the surveillance court known as the FISC, and they've asked them specifically whether there's going to be any further disciplinary action against the lawyers who they say misled the court about the Carter Page application. And they're also questioning the appointment of a former Justice Department official to oversee the corrective actions that the FBI is taking. And they've given the FISC or the FISA court until the end of the month to respond. And I would emphasize it's highly unusual to see these dialogues in such a public way because it is a highly secretive institution.
Very interesting developments. Catherine Herridge, thank you so much on your reporting on them.